Shabbat Shalom, and I greet you in the name of the Most High. My name is Brother Yadan. Tonight we'll discuss the book that Rudolph Windsor did thorough research to give us this knowledge that we were not really understanding because we were never taught this. It's a history of ancient black races, including the black Hebrews. I could tell you a lot about Rudolph Windsor, but I'll do that at the end because of the great work he's done. I want to get it to you now. The first of the chapters is called The Ancient Black Civilization. More than 6,000 years ago, in the land called Mesopotamia, there developed the most remarkable civilization known to mankind. This civilization was centered between the Tigris and the Euphrates River. These rivers begin in the mountains of Armenia and flow in a southern direction toward the Persian Gulf. The soil of this area is tremendously fertile because of the alluvial deposit brought down by the two rivers. European civilization developed from ancient black civilization. Without this black civilization, white domination and influence as we know it today would have been improbable. The number of tribes were entrenched in the southern part of the Tigris-Euphrates region. This southern section was known at different times by many names, among which were Sumer, Akkad, and Arcade, and Chaldea. But the name best known to us is Babylonia. This area was also in the location of the Garden of Eden, and the people of this region were jet black. I shall prove conclusively that the black people have the most ancient history of all human. The best available source of proof is the history of the Jews, which truly is the Hebrews, known as the Bible. We know the word Jew, but we never hear much about the Hebrew. So that's why I stopped and then paused for this to let you know. Known in the Bible, Genesis chapter 2, verse 10, it is written, "And a river went out of Eden to water the garden. And from there it was parted and became four heads. There were four rivers which watered the Garden of Eden. I shall cite the third and the fourth rivers first. Then I shall proceed to the first and the second rivers." I do this because it fits better into my line of reasoning, he said. Genesis chapter 2, verse 14 reads, "And the name of the third river is Hiddekel. That is it which goeth toward the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is the Euphrates." Commentators, scholars, have identified the river Hiddekel. They say it is the Tigris River. Now I shall cite Genesis 2:13. "And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is it compasseth the whole land of Ethiopia." Because the Garden of Eden is associated with the land of Ethiopia, we can conclude that the people were black. Rush, the 11th century commentator, Rush, said, this is what Rush said, that the Gihon is the Nile River that bows through eastern Africa. Rashi most likely makes this point because the Nile flows in Ethiopia and into Egypt. Dr. Spicer, who was a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, said, "There is no basis for detouring of the Gihon to the Ethiopia." He meant the Ethiopia in Africa, not to mention the Payhan, in the various remote regions of the world. I agree, he said with Dr. Spicer, that we should not search for the Gihon in Africa, nor the Paysan in the remote area of the earth. but that we should research and search for the Python and the Gihon in the Tigris-Euphrates Valley. There were two Ethiopian nations in ancient times. That's a lot what people didn't understand, that there were two Ethiopians, one by the Ham and one by Shem. Okay. Now we have the two Ethiopians. These two Ethiopian nations in ancient times, Eastern Ethiopia and Western Ethiopia. This point Dr. Spicer failed to elucidate, possibly because of an oversight. There was an Ethiopian civilization in southern Mesopotamia, Babylon, but the people in this region did not use their tribal name, Ethiopia, to designate their nationality. They called themselves by the name of the city that they constructed and inhabited, or they called themselves by the ancient event that happened in their time. God confused the language of the people at the Tower of Babel. Babel means confusion in Hebrew. This is why the Ethiopian tribes call themselves Babylonians, referring to the name of the city that they constructed. There are many nations that are designated by their true nationality. For example, the white Australians came from England, but those Englishmen who live in Australia do not call themselves by their ancestral name. They call themselves by the name of the country which they colonized, which is Australia. The name of Australia represented the United Nations by the names of the nation. Australia, and not under the ancestral name England. The people who resided in the lower part of the Tigris-Euphrates Valley were Ethiopian black in complexion. We read in Genesis chapter 10, verse 8, that Cush begot Nimrod. The word Cush means Ethiopia, and Cush was the father of the Ethiopians. And for the meaning of the word Cush, see Webster's New Collegiate Dictionary. Nimrod was a mighty Ethiopian conqueror and builder in the land of Shinar. We find in Genesis chapter 10, verse 8 through 10, that Nimrod ruled over the cities as Babylon, Erech, Akkad, Arcade. All these cities are situated in the land of Shinar. Another name for Shinar is Sumer. This civilization was of a higher order and one of the oldest civilizations in ancient times. In Genesis chapter 10, verse 7, we have learned that Havilah was the son of Cush, who was in Ethiopia. The word Havilah became the name of a tribe and region known as the land of Havilah, and the Havilites, Ethiopian, lived in the land of Havilah. Moreover, scholars have located the land near the Persian Gulf. In search of the land of Havilah, we find that there are another Havilah, who was one of the sons of Joktan, and Joktan was the grandson of Shem. Now Joktan, in Genesis chapter 10, verse 26 to 29, but that was in the line of Shem. Now go back and read Genesis chapter 10, verse 22. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And they are called the Japhites. The Japhites. We should not confuse Havilah, the son of Joktan, with Havilah, the son of Cush. Now, it is logical to conclude Havilah, the son of Cush, is intended in Genesis chapter 2, verse 11, to be Havilah of the land Havilah, because that Havilah was a Cushite, Ethiopian. His Babylonian, with his habitation, would naturally be adjudant to his brother Nimrod, who ruled Babylon. Now, there are 2 Havilahs. one by Ham and one by Cush. I'm sorry, one by Shem. Now, Abraham was one of the fathers of the 12 tribes of Israel. And Abraham's father, Terah, came from the land of Ur, of the Chaldees. Genesis chapter 11, verse 26 and 28. The land of Ur of the Chaldees was located at the southern part of Euphrates. Chaldeans were one of many Cushite tribes. Cush means black. According to the Bible dictionary, the dictionary defines further. Cush, the son of Ham, apparently the eldest, they said Cush, the name of a son of Ham, apparently the eldest, and of a territories occupied by his descendants, Cushites, it appeared to have spread along tracts extending from the higher Nile to the Euphrates and to the Tigris River. History affords many connections between Babylon, Arabia, and Ethiopia. There is more than adequate evidence that the ancient nations of Babylon, Akkadian, Sumer, and Chaldea were inhabited by the Cushite tribes, Ethiopia, on all sides of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. The Pison, the river, mentioned in Genesis chapter 2, verse 11 through 13, it winds and turns through the land of Havilah. Some were near the Persian Gulf. Although it is difficult to identify the Garden of Eden, it was in the lower part of the Tigris-Euphrates Valley. This was the most fertile region in the Middle East, with its many canals and lakes. No wonder it was called the Garden of Eden. It was so well watered that the vegetation looked better than any English park. The Tigris-Euphrates River joined before they reached the Persian Gulf. Then they separate again, making 4 rivers of the channels of those 2 rivers. This is one of the theories of the top-rated authorities. The modern names of the rivers that flow in the Tigris and Euphrates are the Great Zab, the south of Nineveh, the Little Zab, south of the Great Zab. The Delia River flows into the Tigris, Baghdad, Iraq. Now, we're going to go with the Sumer and Kish. Before the dispersal of mankind at the Tower of Babel, before they were dispersed, all mankind at the Tower of Babel, this region was not called Babylon. It was only after the confusion of the language and the dispersal of the people that the name Babel was given to the tower. This conclusion is reached by way of logic. What was the name of the region and tower before the confusion and language and dispersal? The Webster Dictionary Gazette section says Sumer is the southern division of ancient Babylon. Moreover, the same dictionary says on page 849, Samaria and the pre-Seminite population of the lower Euphrates River and the valley. The pre-Semitic population means that the black Sumerians were there first. This point is in harmony with my original position that the people in lower Mesopotamia were Eastern Ethiopian. The Sumerians or Ethiopians and those kindred appear to have settled along the tracks from Mesopotamia to India. This area now includes southern Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and the northern west part of India. The first and second allusions to Sumer in the Bible are in Genesis chapter 10, chapter 10, verse 10, chapter 11, verse 1. Under the same Shana, Webster Dictionary Gazette section, Hence, to this relationship of Shinar and Sumer, there is definitely a blood relationship between Dravidian tribes of India and Ethiopian Sumerian. The Sumerian civilization preceded the Babylonian. The Sumerians found cities that existed more than 4000 BC, such as Erud, Lachish, Nupru, Shish, and Ur. Archaeologists have found skeletons of ancient Dravidian and Nevada tribes in Ur and Kish. Adequate Sumerian statues resemble the statuary of the Dravidian civilization. And I'm going to the second chapter of the book, which describes the origin of the white race. When we read not to try to deceive. We read to give you true understanding and knowledge. And it's not about a race or color, it's about the truth that we have been hid from us for so long. So now we bring it to the forefront. These books that I'm going to give you over these times, because I've had to read them and research them and find out and validate them first for you. Now I'm going to go into the second chapter, and I'm going to leave at the second chapter because it's a long, long research studied book that I would like to take my time and for you to research and go behind me. The origin of the white race. After the destruction of mankind by the flood, Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives were the only people that were saved. The sons of Noah were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. From these 3 sons of Noah was the whole earth populated. The ark rested on Mount Arad. It was located in Armenia. The words Armenia and Arad mean high ground. The entire earth at this time was one speech, one language. Most of the people dwelled in the plain of Shinar in Hebrew, the valley of Shinar. Men began to congregate in the territory and build a tower up to heaven. The Jewish historian Flavius Josephus said, God also commanded them to send colonies abroad for the thorough peopling of the earth. But the people did not obey. Now, when man was in the process of building the tower, God disapproved of its construction because it showed a disbelief in his word. The divine and promised Noah that he would not destroy the earth by water again. Nimrod, the Ethiopian, was the leader of the conspiracy against God. He was a mighty man and a conqueror. That Nimrod was. He was a mighty hunter in the Most High. Okay. When God considered what had been done, he confused man's language. And what he did, he scattered them toward the 4 directions of the earth. The sons of Noah were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Because the world were populated from these 3 sons, nor it is proper to classify men only according to their classification. Shemites, Hamites, Japhites, and Caucasoids, Mongoloids, or Negroids. The latter category is a modern anthropological classification that we will deal with more thoroughly later. The parts of the earth inhabited by the children of Shem were parts of the territory of Assyria, Elam, Persia, east of the Tigris River, the eastern part of Syria, and parts of the Arabian Peninsula. All the children of Shem were black. This position will be supported by arguments and facts later. The second classification of mankind was the Hamites, who controlled the great centers of civilization in ancient times 4000 BC. After the flood, the civilization included the continent of Africa, the land of Canaan, Israel, parts of Arabia, Syria, Phoenicia, Turkey, Babylonia, southern Persia, Iran, East Pakistan, and a large part of India. The third classification of mankind was the Japhites. From the Japhites, who was the youngest son of Noah, the offspring of Japheth occupied the isles of the Gentiles, the shore territories of Mediterranean Sea in Europe and parts of Asia Minor, whence they dispersed northward over the entire continent of Europe and a part of Asia. After Noah, ark rested in the mountains of Ararat. Rested in the ark of the Ararat. After Noah, dispersal of the children of men at the Tower of Babel, Japheth's descendants traveled west, north, and northeast of the mountains and Ararat and the Caucasus Mountains. The Japhites settled near the mountains of Tarsus, Arnias, Turkey. They joined to the river Tanis, southeast Russia, and along the European Cadiz, Spain. The sons of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, Tiras. Genesis 10:12. Gomer was the ancestor of the other offshoots of the Celtic family, and of the present-day Gaels of Ireland, Scotland, and Hebrides in Israel. These Cimmerians were described by Homer, the Greek, as dwellers in remote place of mist and gloom. The place was located in the Black Sea. A lot of darkness and darkness and dungeon and ugliness and all these things were in that land. The second son of Japheth was Magog, the father of the Magonites. Flavius Junius Josephus said that Greeks called these people Scythian. The Scythian included all the wandering tribes who dwelt mostly near the north of the Black Caspian Sea. They were regarded by ancients as tremendously lacking intelligence and civilization. The third son of Japheth was Madai, the father of Medes. They were located at the southern part of the Caspian Sea, and they later united with the Persians to form one race. Very ignorant, it says, uncivilized, lacking intelligence. From Javan, the fourth son of Japheth, came the Jania and all the Greeks. Tubal, the fifth son of Japheth, is associated with Javan, which is in Isaiah 66, verse 19, Meshach and Tubal, Ezekiel chapter 32, 26, and 39, verse 1, are nations of the north. And I know we read the Bible said they're coming from the north and they will invade. It's the north of the local points of the land of Israel. Josephus identified the descendants of Tubal with the earliest Iberians. They were inhabitants of territory between the Caspian and the Sea, which is Georgia, in southern Russia. The last son of Japheth was Tyrus, the father of the ancestor of the Cavisia. This land, Thrace, was saturated in the north of Turkey, Asia Minor, and the northeast of Greece. Japheth's grandson Ashkenazi formed the Germanic race. In Hebrew language, the word means German. By 378 AD, the Germanic tribes were on the move. They were known under the names Lombards, Burgundians, Franks, Saxons, Angles, Jutes, Ostrogoths, Visigoths, Suvis, and Vandals. These 10 Germanic barbarian tribes settled all over the western part of Europe, very barbarian, and intermingled with modern nation Western Europe as known to them today. All these tribes were the descendants of Japheth. The ancient people did not classify races according to their skin color, like the modern nations of Europe and America do today. The ancients, including the Greeks and Romans, identified people according to their national or tribal name. They used names as Vishkat, Vandal, Saxon, Ethiopian, Scythian, Jew, Arab, Persian. See, they couldn't use Jews because there was no such name as the Jews back at that time. I'll skip that. I'll get you later. They used names of the Babylonian, the Ethiopian, and the Moors. They did not use term Negro, which is a modern term to refer to black races, or the word Caucasian to refer to the white races. Dividing the world along the color line was an idea that originated with the white supremacists in Europe and a Renaissance. The Europeans did not have any great civilization immediately after the fall of Greece and Rome. During the Middle Ages, the black nations of Africa and Asia had the greatest political, economical, educational, and military influence in the world. At this time, Europe existed in a state of darkness for a thousand years. In the 17th century and the latter, Europe began to emerge out of the slouch of ignorance, and certain Germans and others conceived of themselves, excuse me, as to belongs. Wait a minute, I lost my spot. Concentration has to belong. Okay. No, here we go. Up to this time, no such attempts had been made. This classification by Mr. Blumenberg. Oh, I got to go back up. I'm sorry. Let me go back and give you this. Okay. Germans and others conceived themselves as belonging to a superior race. Johann F. Blumenbach, a German, in 1752, 1840, was the first to divide humanity on the basis of skin color. Up to this time, no such attempts have been made. He classified and set up a color line to deter. It was a detriment of later generation. Blumenbach, I won't call him Mr. He said Mr. Blumenbach, classified 5 chief races of mankind: the Caucasian, and the Mongolian, the Ethiopian, and American Indians, and the Malayan. Moreover, he considered the Caucasian. How are you gonna do that? The Ethiopian Caucasian. How are you gonna do that? That didn't even sound right. He said, Mr. Blumenbach, they call him, the Caucasian to be the original race. And I read this book, I love this book, but I say, you cannot get black from white. Black can get all 5 colors, but white cannot produce all colors. Let's get this straight now. They cannot be the original people. I'm sorry. Okay. Now, Blumenbach, the Caucasian anthropologist, named the whites after the Caucasus Mountain. These mountains are situated between the Black Caspian Sea because he thought the purest white people originated from there. Blumenbach was a racist, and so was J.A. Bubenbaum. A third man by the name of H.S. Chamberlain wanted to advance the supremacy of the white Nordic race and its culture. These men attributed psychologically value, horrible, vicious racial profiles, philosophy, and to persecute of the Hebrews in the Nazi Jews, Germany. It's a lot about this that I love, a lot about this that I know it's not true because I did my own personal research. Now, T.R. Gott wrote in the book, Race Psychology, 1931, any disposition on our part to withhold from some race the right to a free and full development must be taken as an indication of rationalization on the account of race prejudice, and such are sad because the attitude is inexcusable in an intelligent populace. As I have proven, the early civilization, North Africa and the Middle East among the black races, read about the black Asiatic in Herbert Wentz. It began in a Bible, a book on the origin of races. In page 125, 129, in 368, we have more than adequate proof that the white races began near the Caucasus Mountain, and from there they spread north, northwest, northeast into Europe, and are white today. Were they originally white beginning for the ancestor, Joshua? Or did they change, materialize in the skin color of the descendant of Japhet? The question is, it's difficult to answer. I was told that Japhet was a black man and wanted to be white. So God changed him to be white. Changed to a white man. I don't know if I can live with that one. I know there's a little bit more. Evidence to that theory is lacking, as I just said, it's lacking. Nevertheless, scientists and anthropologists have found different kinds of mutation in certain parts of the world. A physical mutation is a sudden variation of change, the offspring differing from its change in chromosomes or genes that determine hereditary. Blonde hair among the black Australian Aborigines is an example of mutation, and probably albinos are a good example of mutation, and probably the example of that mutation with their white skin and woolly hair, thick lips, and Ethiopian nose, and sudden change, any sudden change from the normal to be regarded as a mutation. Anything that's not as was is a mutation, and he'll explain it to you a little bit further. Okay, when you look at any sudden change regarding the mutation, other examples I'm going to give you is the blondism of whiteness among monkeys, apes, and chimpanzees. Major mutations or changes took place among the descendants of Japheth. It's a whole lot that he wants to say, but I can't get into it. But this is obvious because of their white skin. In other words, they were black at one time, but their skin changed to white. Phenomenon, can be understood in view of total world population. Over 2/3 of the population of the world consists of colored people. That is a ratio 2-to-1. 2 out of Noah's 3 sons remain black. We know this to be true because many of the people throughout Africa and Asia, Latin America, and the isles of the Pacific Ocean are yellow people, yellow, brown, black. They have facial features like the Congolese, the African, especially the Vietnamese, the Filipinos.